Hi, I'm Lucas, and I used to be a Catholic. But that's just not how I wanted it to be. I grew up really religious. I went to church every Sunday. I received the Eucharist. I went to religious education programs every week for 8 years, receiving all 3 sacraments of initiation: baptism, communion, confirmation. I've done everything it takes to be a good Catholic, but I just don't feel like one. When I was younger, I was really open to what Catholicism had to offer because it seemed like a really warm community where everyone connected and talked about God, and it was something beautiful. But I didn't get that. I wanted to feel connected to God and to everyone like my dad felt, who's really religious, and how people before him have felt, but I didn't feel that. The church couldn't appeal to me and many of the teenagers like me, and we got lost. From a psychological perspective, there are 3 main things that religion offers that allows it to succeed. Those 3 things are hope, community, and engagement. They work together to create a system that entices people to keep coming back. But when I went to church, I didn't find hope, community, or entertainment. All I was just bored. First, I'd like to talk about hope. In the past, everyone feared disease, famine, death, because we had no idea of how to prevent it. So, of course, people looked to supernatural things in order to find ways to deal with these issues, and the church filled that spot. They were able to put hope into the masses, and that created a good environment for people. But when the Black Death hit Europe and priests started dying, they found that the church couldn't offer them that salvation they all wanted, and attendance dropped. And now, in this day and age, I look to doctors and medicine, and when I get the flu, I don't go to church, I go to my local pharmacist to pick up some antibiotics. And so I'm not getting hope in the same way that I used to, and that's an issue. Next, there is community. The church offered a sense of community and belonging to the people that went, and it not only offered a pious, holy experience, it also offered a social gathering for the townspeople, where they could come together and talk about like ideas, what happened that week, and it was a good way to break up day-to-day life. But when I went to church, all that happened was us sitting there, and once it ended, everyone bustled out and left as soon as possible. Of course, there were still old men and old women that went to the diner and talked after church, but kids in my generation, kids like me, were just as antsy to leave as I was. I no longer found that sense of community in church because I had found it with my friends at school, my online communities, and things like that. Next, and most importantly, there is engagement. It is crucial that the church engages its audience and is able to spread their message in a successful manner. And it had done that through, when music wasn't accessible, people went to church to listen to music. They heard biblical stories and visions of hell that were both scary and enticing. But when I went to church, all that happened was me, again, being bored. I was unable to be engaged, and to be honest, the most engaging thing that happened was when the priest said, "The Mass has ended. You may now go in peace." So, how do we feel this engagement? And the church isn't connecting to us the way it used to. Even though I hate to admit it, my generation just doesn't have the same attention span as those past did. So we found ways to stay hyperstimulated all the time with cell phones, TV, while eating dinner, while thinking about all the drama that happened that day, creates so much traffic in a kid's brain that sitting down for church and being silent and disconnected for an hour and a half becomes excruciating. So how are we going to make kids connected? Because the truth is, many of us can't. The only way to do this is connecting to us in a way that we can understand. Technology is such a big thing in our lives nowadays, and the church isn't tapping into that. I have my phone with me tonight, and I bet many of you have your phones with you today. Some of you might be on it in the audience. So there is so much opportunity for the church to connect to us in that way, but they just aren't. And why? Because they just don't want to. A few weeks ago, it might have been months, the Pope actually said that kids should, quote, put down their cell phones and pick up their Bibles. My phone is attached to my leg, and whether I'm actually on it or not, it's always there. And I'm not putting it down to pick up a Bible. And what if the Pope comes and calls me? Am I going to miss it because I'm reading my Bible? Many smaller organizations have actually tried to do this, like the Protestant church. 75% of Protestant churches actually have websites, which seems like a good thing, but only 1/2 of these websites are actually using it to connect with their parishioners. My church hands out a newsletter every Sunday that tells upcoming events, when the next Mass is, what's going to happen, but it just becomes a piece of paper. And when we get home, it just gets thrown out. We're not getting that communication with the church that we should be, and we don't feel engaged anymore. Why not try a good website or email or other electronic means of communication that have been proven to be so successful? Because the thing is, if our generation isn't connected to the church, the morals that come with it, we're not getting. And that is what's important. I might be a lost cause, but I really want the importance of the church and religion itself to be passed on to our generation, because we are the future. Thank you.